Hey, my name is Matthew Peterson and welcome to another Power Apps video. When I first started working for Pragmatic Works and I did my very first trainings on Power Apps, one of the requests that I would get almost every single time was, Matt, I like how we can delete records, which is awesome. However, it could be problematic. What if somebody hits that delete button and they didn't really mean to, and now that record is completely wiped out? Could we make it like a two-step process where they hit the delete and then they get that, are you really sure you want to do this process? Do you really want to do the delete? So that's what I'm going to show you today, how you can enable a pop-up screen to show up using a variable so that instead of the delete button doing the delete, it activates another screen to pop up right on top of your current screen. Now, what I'm showing is all about how to do basically an extra step for a delete for a pop-up screen. However, if you have another reason of why you would want a pop-up screen to show up and overlay your current screen, then you can use this exact same procedure that we're about to go through. So with no further ado, let's actually take a look at how this is done in a Power App. So this app that you're looking at right here is just some quick, simple data. Peterson chore checks. As we have these kids, and I do not have 4 kids. I just have one of these right here, Jack. But each kid, what happens is we take a day. Let's go into the preview mode of it. If we take Tyler here, and we can log his chores, and then after we log his chores over here, it then gets submitted back, and get rid of that. And it shows up all of our chores. So as we, click on the different children, we see that they've done different things as Jack, and then we go down to Sloan, and so on and so forth. But let's say we put in a record and now we're ready to delete it. Well, what do we do? Well, the normal way that we do this is we have an icon inserted in for the actual record itself. So I went in to my template cell, I went into the insert, and I put in a trash icon. Then normally what you would do is you would select the icon itself, and then on select, you would normally type in the code, remove, and then you would say, what do you want to remove? And then you would give it the actual source. And so this would be, don't worry about my source names here. I just put in some play data, but I just put this on a well-checked patient list that I had. And then I would say this item. And so I would say remove it from this source, this item, which that would then get rid of it if we used it. However, what we want to do is something a little bit different. Instead of when they hit this button, they actually delete, I want a new screen to pop up. So before we can actually do that, we have to make the screen itself. So what we're going to do is over in the left-hand navigation pane, I'm just going to go to the plus to insert a rectangle, just as a quick one of those. You could also go to insert your icons and then look for the rectangle. But I'm just going to go right here to a rectangle. And it's going to pop it right on in here. And I'm going to have this overlay the entire screen because this is what I want to actually pop up. So obviously we're going to want a different fill color here. We're not going to want that blue. And we're not going to want it to be fully thick, so to speak. We want to have a little bit of transparency to it. So I've got a color, and I think I used the var teal for the background, all right, which looks pretty good. Except the only problem with the var teal is, again, it's going to be entirely this color. I want some translucency here. So I'm going to come over and let's go take a look at what my var teal is set up as. It's this RGBA code right here. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to use that instead for my rectangle. Instead of rectangle 2, I'm going to also at this point just rename this so we can keep track of it. I'm going to call this my pop-up. There we go. And now for that fill color, I'm going to use that exact same color that I had, but instead of a 1, I could do like a 0.3. So let's see what happens when I put the 0.3 in here. Okay, so now I can still see this stuff in the background. That's the whole point of this. I don't want them to go to a new screen because I still want them to see where they were to give them an idea of what they had just done. So 0.3 looks pretty good here. All right, the next thing that I want to do on this screen now is I'm going to want to put some actual buttons and some text like, hey, are you sure you really want to delete this record? So let's do that first. I'm going to go to Insert Ribbon. I'm going to put on a label. And the text, I'm just going to go with, are you sure you want to delete the record? Type that in real quick. All right. Looks pretty good. And then we will have that take up over here. Again, right now you might be saying, this isn't going to look really well. How are you going to keep track of all this? Well, I'm going to come over here again. Instead of label 2, I'm going to rename this. And I'm going to rename this LBL PopUp. So that way I know this PopUp belongs to, this label belongs to this PopUp. And I'm going to, again, I'm going to have it probably take up, we'll go with about that much. And we'll make it definitely a much larger font here. So I'll go with 50. Let's see how that looks. All right. And, all right, looks pretty good. We'll make it a little bit larger over here. And then we'll definitely want, I'll probably put a different font color on this as well. So let's take the font color. Actually, just to make it simple, we'll just go to the home ribbon and we'll change the font color maybe to like a red. There we go. How's that look? Okay, not too bad. And we'll deal with all the formatting at the very end here. So, okay, we've got the text that's going to pop up as well with the pop-up object, the rectangle. And I need 2 buttons. I need a button that says yes, delete. So I'm going to just drag a button over here, double click on it. I'm going to say yes, delete. And we'll make that button a little bit larger. And we would make the text larger. But for now, we don't have to worry about it looking pretty and beautiful. So format yours however you want. I'm going to do a quick, let's go over here and rename this button because it'll make sense in a second why I'm doing this. So BTN yes. All right. And then I'm going to do another button. So I just did a Control C, a Control V on that button real quick. I'm going to bring this one on over here. And it's going to say no. Are you sure you want to delete the record? Yes, delete. The other one is just going to say no. And let's go call that, instead of button yes 1, we're going to rename this BTN no. All right. And again, the formatting, make sure that looks nicer design-wise, but this is just to show you the whole functionality. So here's what we want to do. We want all of this. We want the pop-up screen. We want the text. We want the button and the other button. We want that to show up when somebody hits that trash icon. So we could do this the long way where we do the coding on every single object, but we are definitely going to be taking a shortcut here. What we're going to do is take all of those things that we want to pop up at once and we're going to group them together. So that way we can just do the code once and be done with it. So let's group all of these together over here in the tree view, which is why I was doing on my labeling. So button no, control click button yes, control click label pop up, and control click the actual pop up screen itself. And what we want to do with that now is I'm going to do a right click and I'm going to group them. And so group 1. And so, you know, we could call this the group pop up, but I'm only going to have one group on here. So group 1 should be fine for now. And so just to show you, if I go to group 1 and I'm going to go to the visible property, and currently it's set to true. Well, if I put this for false, it now is gone and it's no longer seen to us. And if I go back to group 1 and change it to true, now we are good. So what we want to do here is I want to have a variable that will change between true and false. And so when the variable is true and the visibility references it, the pop-up screen will come out. And then if it's false, the pop-up screen will disappear into the background, so to speak. So that's what we're going to do. That's what the delete button is going to do. It is going to have a variable and it will change that variable for us. So let's take a look at how we can do that. So for now, I'm going to just put this to false, just so it's easier to work with in the background. And I'm going to come down here to my delete button, which really is not going to be doing the deleting, because here's what it's going to do. On select, what we want it to do is we want it to declare a variable and we want to update the context. And actually, if we want to do this, for this demonstration, I could declare the variable right here. But if you're going to be a multi-screen, because I know how my app works, you might want the variable to be declared right when somebody gets onto your screen. So let's do it that way, because that might be more, that's the more formal way that will work no matter what your situation is. So let's approach it in that manner. So let's say when somebody gets to this screen, you don't want the pop-up to be shown. So you would want the variable to be false. So there is an option for screen. and it's called the onVisible, which means, hey, when somebody gets to this screen, when this screen becomes visible, this line of code is going to run. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to say, okay, when someone gets here, I want a variable declared, and I want to set that variable to false, because that way the pop-up screen will be false, and it will not be showing. So how do you declare a variable? Well, it is going to be, and I'll zoom in here a little bit, it is going to be called the update context. So you're going to go update context. And then one of the, this is going to make a context, a record in the background. One of the gotchas is you have to start off with, after the parentheses, a curly brace, or a fancy bracket as I like to call them. And then after that, you just say what you want to call your variable. So I'm going to call this, to be very specific, var show popup. I think that makes sense. And then we're going to put a colon, and then we're going to put what do we want the value to be for that variable. And I want it to be false, because when someone gets here, I do not want the pop-up to be shown. So then I'm going to put my fancy brace back in and close that out with a parentheses. And all is good to go so far. So when someone gets here, var show popup is going to be set to false. Fantastic. Well, then what do we want to happen when somebody hits the delete button? We want that false to turn true, because then our pop-up will pop out at us. So let's come now down here to the trash icon, the onSelect property. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to do an update context, and then we're going to say, well, what's the variable that you we're trying to change here? My var show popup. So we'll tab that over. There it goes. Got in there twice. And then instead of it being false, I now want it to go into true. And just being a little bit slow there. Okay. So far, so good. We think, well, we could check this out. I'm going to come down now to my group 1 right here, and currently the visible is set to false. So I'm going to say, nope, I want it to always be whatever the variable is. Whatever the variable show popup is, that's what I want it to use. So we're going to go variable show popup. There it is. All right. So again, remember, it's currently set to false, which is why we're not seeing anything. But let's come on over here. I'll hit the play button. I'm going to hit the delete icon, and boom, there it is. There is the pop-up screen. Okay, things are good. Now we have to go, well, what do we want to happen? Once our end user gets to this pop-up screen, now we can actually put the delete function. So if they click yes, delete, now we can say, okay, when they actually hit this is the second time. Now we can say, all right, let's remove. And so we're going to say remove. Once it starts popping up, come on here. There it is. Just being a little bit slow today. Come on. Remove. And then it's going to say remove. It's going to say where's it from. And remember, I just added some play data into one of my already existing SharePoints. Didn't want to do as much work. So this is actually in my Humana well checks record. But you put whatever data source your records are in. And then we say this item. And now we're going, wait, this item, Matt, that's what you showed us earlier, right? When I did the first delete, we did remove this item. But why are we not doing it here? Well, the reason we're not doing it here is because now we're no longer within that gallery. Now we're on, it doesn't know we were in that gallery to begin with. It doesn't know we were on that row of data. So we have to go and tell it, oh yeah, you need to look at what I clicked prior to seeing this screen. I was at the gal, and I think mine is called gal chores. There it is, dot selected. So gal chores dot selected, and now it likes it. Because remember, when we hit that delete button, it took us, this new screen came up. So we had to say, well, where were we before? Go look at the gallery and look what we had selected in there before we saw this screen. And then we have to have something else. After we click that, we want that screen to go away, correct? So what else do we have to add to it? We have to add a semicolon. And we have to say, okay, here's the next thing that I want you to do. I want you to also now update the variable. Because now I want the screen to go away. So that means I now need the var show popup to go back to false. Because it's currently set to true when we're on this screen. That's what made the screen show up. And so now we're good. It will remove this and the screen will go away. Well, what if somebody says, Matt, I don't want to delete it. It was a mistake. Well, then all we have to do is say, you know what? We don't need to do the delete. All we need to do is come on over and update the variable so that the screen goes away. So we're going to go with that update context again. And then we're going to bring back our var show popup, and we're going to turn it back into false. So that way this screen will go away. So let's see if this is actually working. So it says, are you sure you want to delete the record? And I say no. Okay, great. Let's go to somebody new here. We'll go down over here. Actually, I think we were on Jack. Let's go to Sloan here. Oh, we're just working in the background. I got my gray dots going on. Like I said, I apologize for being slow here. Let's see. I'm going to click on delete. Chore's not finished. Do I want to delete this? Yes. Let's see if December 18th goes away. Done. December 18th went away and our screen went away. Let me click delete here again. Are you sure you want to delete? No, I do not. So based on changing our variables, that is what allowed it to be done with showing that pop-up. So again, the first thing we did is on visible. So that way if I was on my other screen, so if I was on screen forms and I went to go to the other screen, the very first thing that happens when I get to my screen main is that the variable is going to be set to false. And because my group 1's visible references that variable and it's false, that's why it's not showing up. And the only way that that variable changes to true, we only had to do that once. We put it on our delete. That's what set it to true. Then the variable group over here will pop up. And then in order to get that to not pop up, we put both on button no and button yes, because after they make their selection, that's when we want that screen to go away. All right, I hope this has helped. I hope you can see how you can use this in yours. Please subscribe, like below, leave me comments. Let me know anything else that you would like to see a future video about.